Ninjago is no stranger to animation errors. I think that honestly kind of just goes without saying, but it's nothing wrong with that, and they're really fun to actually find when you do look throughout the show. Now, I personally have actually made a fair few videos in the past about Ninjago animation errors, covering some interesting ones, covering some iconic ones, covering recent ones, and they all do share their very interesting spot within the Ninjago mythos. But one type of animation error that I think interests me the most is a simple case of those animation errors where it's not even blinking you'll miss it. You can be staring down the barrel of the error and you may not even notice it, and I for one am definitely guilty on this on many of occasions. So what I have done today is actually collect together 8 Ninjago animation errors, and they just span across the entirety of the show. But the thing about them is that they are animation errors that I have personally never seen before, and we are talking errors all the way back as far as season 1. So I'm presenting them to see if anyone else ever noticed these, because honestly speaking, I don't know if a lot of people did, because these are really specific and honestly may only be called to your attention when I pointed out. But let me not waste any more of your time, and let's talk about these animation errors. Our first animation error for today, well, like I said, is coming from season 1. In the episode The Royal Blacksmiths, we get this scene where Pythor is talking to the judges so he can attempt to sabotage the competition. Now, this scene, you're drawn to Pythor here. You're drawn to what he's up to, how the other judges are reacting. That is the main point of the scene. The background is blurred, and that's basically it. Now, for one, beyond the fact that there are multiple model reuses back there to the point where I wouldn't even know where to begin, there is something that is a little more interesting, being the fact that if you look at Edna, you realize that she is actually wearing a helmet and goggles. This is her variant where she's actually driving her car, and it's really funny to see that this is actually placed back there. It is probably just a simple case of they grabbed the wrong version of the model and never noticed, but it's really funny when you notice that she is just sat there with a helmet on, and I do think it's really funny in retrospect because now I simply can't unsee it. But in the 15 years I've been watching this show, I've never even noticed that once, which honestly kind of baffles me in retrospect, because how do you not notice something like that? But honestly, that is probably one of the most noticeable ones of the bunch, and honestly one of the ones that I'm expecting you to more likely actually notice, but it's still the first one regardless, one I never knew, so I thought I would point it out. Animation error number 2 is actually going to be coming from the end of Tournament of Elements. In this shot where all of the ninja are celebrating the fact that they succeeded and all the elemental masters are happy that they're finally done with what they have to do, you can see everyone nice and happy. Now, a lot of people have pointed out the fact that Shade seems to be quite angry in this shot, but that is not actually the animation error I wanted to point out. But that's just where people's attention went to. But if you look in the bottom right hand corner of this shot, Mia's Samurai X helmet is actually missing her horns. This is honestly, again, one of those ones that I can't believe I've missed all of these years. I've looked at this shot many times, but for me personally, I'm always just looking at Karloff, Jay, and Kai, so it makes sense that I would have missed it, and it's just really funny in retrospect that this is actually there, considering that she's one of the biggest characters by all account within the shot. And also, as far as I can tell, this is the only time this animation error with the helmet has actually happened, but there it is, the helmet is missing his thorns. Maybe she actually lost it during the fight, we don't truly know, but the thing is that, again, now I see it, I cannot unsee it. I can't believe that actually slipped by for all these years, but that is the second one I did want to point out. Our third animation error is going to be coming from Hand of Time. When the ninja were actually finishing off their battle at Mega Monster Amusement Park, you can actually see the ninja basically recouping after the event of that fight. But for a very brief moment, if you look to the right and you look at Lloyd, you can see that Lloyd actually has a piece of rubble being clipped through him for no particular reason. It seems to be interesting that this actually existed, because how else would something like this come to be? But again, it's something that I just never really would have noticed by this point in time. There is also the case of Zane still having his mask on. I don't think that's exactly an animation error, I think that's just something that Zane just didn't decide to do. But if you want to consider that as a second one within this shot, you definitely could. But as it stands, Lloyd having having something going through his chest is definitely one of the main ones to see here. I find it very interesting that this one slipped through the cracks, because it just seems to be that it's just very much out of nowhere. I don't know how something like this just happens in general, but there it is, and you can only see it for a few seconds at best. So that is the next one to point out, and definitely one of the weirder ones. Animation error number 4 comes from season 11, or the end of the fire chapter to be specific. When the ninja actually take the traveler's tea from Wu when they're going down their elevator, you can see all the ninja together just simply discussing what to do next. But if you look to the right of the shot, it seems to always be the right, you can actually see that Kai is missing his arm. It is just gone. One of the more common Ninjago errors that you can see throughout the seasons are characters actually being translucent. Actually, funnily enough, Cole was translucent in a shot the episode before this one. But Kai here is just missing the arm entirely. Also missing the shoulder pad, but of course, you wouldn't have an arm to have a shoulder pad on. But it's really funny to see that this is just missing. It makes me wonder how something like this happens, because you would assume it's just a full model that they were placed within the shot itself. I'm assuming it has something to do with either the shoulder pad or the actual hood itself, but the thing is that, again, now I've seen it, I just simply can't unsee it. Hence why it's also the thumbnail of this video. But this shot is just hilarious in retrospect, because his flat expression as he's just missing an arm is something that I can't help but find hilarious. But yeah, Kai has one arm now. Congratulations, I think. Who knows how he's gonna go from here onwards. But that is the 4th animation error. Animation error number 5 is gonna be coming from Seabound, and it's an empty frame with a blaster bolt on the left. Well, you may be wondering why I'm pointing out this frame to be specific. Well, that's because this is a very specific frame from that episode where Pixel is just gone. This is where Pixel is actually fighting, and another animation error eventually comes onto screen, which is Zane in his season 11 outfit instead of his scuba outfit. But for a single frame, Pixel just vanishes. She's no longer in the shot whatsoever, and then she just returns the frame after like nothing actually happened. I have no clue how this one slipped through the cracks, because it's probably done frame by frame. So it's just a simple case of, I guess they just accidentally deleted it, or the rendering messed up. I don't entirely know. But for this just one specific instance, she's just gone. She just enters a different plane of existence by the looks of it, and I just find it really funny that this is one of the ones that has made its way through. And spoiler alert for the last animation error of the day, this isn't the only frame perfect animation error we need to talk about, but this is Pixel's one from season 14. I guess she just has the ability to vanish now. Paleman has some notes. The 6th animation error isn't really a conventional one by any stretch of the imagination. It comes from the title card of the episode, The Council of the Crystal King. Now, from an initial glance, you may look at this and think, well, there's nothing really wrong here, it's completely fine. But again, if we go to the right-hand side of the screen, we can see an animation error. I guess they just don't really like the right hand side, but you can see the mechanic, and you may be thinking, well, that's fairly fine, but there are 2 things wrong here. For one, this episode actually surrounds the concept of Lloyd sneaking into this council, so by all accounts it should actually be Lloyd there, but let's assume that it's just meant to demonstrate what should have been the case rather than what actually was the case. Well, the mechanic is still incorrect, because if you look closely, the Ninjroid eye is actually going over his right eye instead of his left eye. In every other time we see the mechanic, it is never on that side of his face, but it is here, and we just don't really know why. I'm guessing it's just simply down to the art style and to make him look more interesting, but as it stands, by all accounts, this is an animation error. The mechanic is just kind of incorrect in all sorts of ways here, and I find it really funny in comparison to everyone else who seems to be completely fine. You could also point out that only the mechanic and Mr. F have chairs, but that's also kinda just me. The 7th animation error for today is coming from Dragon's Rising, and is the only Dragon's Rising one for the video. Yes, we're going back to the main show for the last one, but this very quick shot in season 2 part 2 of Aaron and Sora discussing within their little temple dojo spot for the tournament, you can actually point something out very weird. Initially speaking, you don't really pick up on much, but you guessed it, Look at the right hand side. You can actually see in the background blurred is Cole's hammer, but if you look even closer at it, you'd realize that it's actually floating. This is the only time that this happens as far as we are aware. What is happening here is that the hammer is usually perched up on a table and it's on some form of holder, but it just seems to be that that table is missing from this shot. It is nowhere to be seen, but the hammer did remain. So it just floats there for a few seconds and then we never get to see it like this again. This is another one I just never really picked up on because this is around the time where Aaron is a lot more analytical, going more into the sphere of Ra's, so your attention is really on the characters here, not on a random Cole hammer in the background that I don't even think is used in this season. But yeah, this is just a funny one, a floating hammer that I can't unsee, and the second to last one for today. Which brings us to the final one, and you can already see it on screen. Coming from Season 2's last episode between Lloyd and the Overlord's fight, we have one singular frame of Lloyd T-posing. This error is honestly hilarious in retrospect. You can literally only see this for about one frame within the episode, and even then it is difficult to pick up on, but he's just there T-posing. My understanding on why this is the case is that this very quickly zooms into Lloyd and you can see his shoulder pads when it does zoom in, so they wanted the shoulder pads to be nice and upright, but the rest of the body didn't need to be animated, so they just dead dropped him in there as a T-pose. I find it really funny just to stare at it though, because it makes it look like he's even more powerful, because the power of the T-pose is eternal. But there's something about Lloyd just standing there in this position as he just defeats the Overlord that is just inherently really funny to me. And it had to be something that I pointed out because again, it's frame perfect. I never knew it until I did the research for this video, and it's definitely one that I think a lot more people should know about. So this is going to be the final one for today, and most definitely the best one of today. But with that, those are the 8 animation errors that I have found throughout the entirety of Ninjago that I wanted to point out to you, and this is where I want to open up the conversation. Did I achieve what the title of this video was going to be? Are these animation errors that you didn't know about? I would love to know if I just missed these, because I can honestly say I wasn't aware of these before I did this video, and I find that really funny to actually point out. So I would like to know if I was just behind on the curve, or if this just simply is something that not a lot of people knew, because some of these are really specific and I would like to know if people are honestly aware of them, because I do find them fairly fascinating. So let me know. Also let me know, which of these is your favourite? Do you like Lloyd T-posing? Or do you like Lloyd having things clip through him? Or Kai with no arm? Or Pixel being able to disappear? There are many options here and I would love to know what you think, because it is just fascinating to me. But beyond all that, thank you very much for watching the video and I do hope you enjoyed. And if you did enjoy, please consider subscribing. I love discussing Ninjago with more people. And if you do want to support the channel any further, which you do not have to, you could always become a channel member and join the legends that you see on screen. Each of you, your support means the absolute world to me and I truly cannot thank you enough. But like I said, that's about it for today and take care. Okay,